Well, hello. Welcome back to Confidence Through Cabaret. My name is Heather. Today we're talking about assertiveness. I know that last week we spent some time thinking about being centered by understanding our core values in our personal life as well as our work life. We also talked about hope and the whole kind of piece at the beginning of the year. It's such a wonderful time to be thinking about alignment and just that centering. And so for today, I wanted to start a piece around boundaries, which will probably take us a few days to go through various kinds of boundaries, about setting boundaries, about reinforcing and instilling boundaries. And so for today, I wanted to kind of kick that piece off by talking about assertiveness and what that truly means and what that means in terms of our rights and our responsibilities. So for today's session, let's talk a little bit about what assertiveness is and is not. What are your rights and responsibilities, and some tips and techniques and some ways of being more assertive. So a lot of our language patterns, a lot of our approach is based on, conditioning, how we grew up, language patterns that we grew up with, what's right, what's not right. Some of that will also be about our personal values and our personal kind of our nature, if you like. Some of us are more externally referenced, for example, and so it's more important what the outside world says about us. And some of us are more internally referenced, and what we say about ourselves is more important. In either case, assertiveness is important for maximizing our chances of really achieving what we want in life. And at this time of year, goal setting, alignment, mindset, those things are very forefront for lots of us. But actually, at any time of year, this is an important subject. And it's something that I would always be including in interpersonal skills in any kind of a conference that I might be running anywhere in the world for clients. And it's certainly something I would talk about in my coaching practice. If you want to be able to achieve the kind of relationship that you desire, or you want to be able to improve communication and assertiveness within your relationships that you already have, then it's really important that you understand how to be assertive and what that really means. And that sometimes when we fail to be assertive, it's because we're not upholding our boundaries. So when we're assertive, we're less likely to feel stress, we're less likely to feel anxiety, we're less likely to feel frustrated, and we're less likely to be aggressive ourselves, which often comes from a place of frustration, so a lot of times when we're in a situation where we're not feeling respected or we're not actually being respected, then we need to remember our rights and we need to remember our values and we need to remember our boundaries so that we can be more successful in communicating. And I there's a rule that I heard a very long time ago and I absolutely love around communication, and I stand by it in every form of communication, which is, how can you know what you've communicated until you know what I've understood? So if I'm behaving assertively, part of that is about knowing that you have understood and that you are respectful of my boundaries, you are respectful of my needs and desires. And that's a way of really kind of expressing our confidence. And it's a way of expressing our self-worth, or sometimes we refer to it as self-esteem. So assertiveness, I always think of it as like a line, like a horizontal line. And in the middle of that line, somewhere in that range, is assertiveness. So there's kind of a scale of how we move along that line. And we do. Sometimes we're more aggressive at one end, and sometimes we're less assertive or passive or submissive at the other end. And assertiveness sits somewhere in the middle in terms of how we express ourselves. So assertiveness is, standard definition, standing up for our rights in a way that doesn't violate other people's rights. And that can be a bit tricky, because if I get frustrated, then I can want to say, but you always, and then I'm taking away someone else's rights. So I have the right, and everyone has the right, to express our needs and our wants and our opinions and our beliefs, and to express how we feel in a way that is clear and honest and direct and actually very appropriate, so that I don't take away other people's rights to have those same expressions. So when we're not assertive, which might be at this end of the line, then we are either submissive and we'll say, fine, you win, I give up. We submit, literally. And we fail to express our needs, wants, feelings, etc., in a direct, clear way. And sometimes we even fail to express them at all. And when we're passive, we sort of suggest that we're agreeing, but we are not necessarily agreeing. We're just not saying anything. So you'll come up with terms like passive aggressive, which means I'm not saying anything, but I'm behaving aggressively. So let's talk a little bit about aggression. Aggression is standing up for one's rights in a way that violates others' rights to express their needs, wants, desires, and so on. When we're behaving aggressively, and I like it as a scale, because at this end, it's like strong aggression, but there are various forms of aggression. Anything between, one step up from assertive all the way along that spectrum is aggressive. So we might ignore someone's rights or their expression. We might dismiss what they've said and say, yeah, but, and, oh, you always don't, or we might express our own needs, wants, desires, feelings in a way that is inappropriate. In other words, in a way that puts down your rights or the other person or people's rights. And so when we come back to passive aggressive, so passive is on the non-assertive end, I'm not saying anything, and then aggressive. So that's things like the silent treatment. I grew up in a household, my mother was a master practitioner of passive aggressive. You'd say, what's wrong? And she'd say, nothing. And you knew from the energy. And this is the thing, by expression, what I'm talking about is not just our words, it's also our whole body. So when we're submissive, we're quite small. We shrink within ourselves, and we fail to stand up for our rights, and we fail to express ourselves. And we might take eye contact away, and we might actually physically shrink. And we might pull away a little bit because we've submitted. And when we're aggressive, we might become much bigger and much closer and much more strong, direct eye contact. And that's not always the case, but it can be the case. When we're aggressive, we might raise our voice, but not always. When we're aggressive, we might use sarcasm. I'm a fan of sarcasm by nature, but me, I don't know if it's nature or probably more like conditioning. Sarcasm was like a basic communication technique in the household I grew up in. My father enjoyed sarcasm very much, and as a form of humor. But by definition, sarcasm is intended to take away someone else's rights. It's kind of that here's assertive, and it's moving up the aggression line. It's nowhere near as much as, shouting or taking up someone else's space or violating their need for space. And so you can feel when somebody is aggressive. You can feel, I was in a marriage where intimidation was all the rage. I mean, it was literally, it was a fundamental communication technique. If I disagreed with something, then there didn't even need to be words. There was just energy and a sharp intake of breath and an eye contact that just said, enough, you're not saying anymore. And that's aggressive. It doesn't have to be actually touching somebody or shouting at somebody. It could just be that you state things, your own opinion, as fact. So you are choose your favorite adjective. You always, my late husband liked to play the everyone who knows you knows that you are a, and then there would be some different difficult adjectives at the end of that sentence. And so those intentions were to cause me to shrink and to submit and to be small. And if you do that for long enough, it starts to, well, for me anyway, I internalized quite a lot of it, but it is intended to shrink us. It is intended to make us stop. So there are lots of times we all do it. We've all been non-assertive. We've all been aggressive in some way. But there are personal rights. You do have the right, and there were some wonderful bills of rights, which are absolute truisms, online. But everyone, just as a quick one in the interest of time, everyone has the right to be listened to. Everyone has the right to express themselves. Everyone has the right to ask for or state what they need or want. Everyone has the right to express their opinions. Everyone has the right, and in a non-aggressive way, in an assertive way. Everyone has the right to share their feelings and their values without fear. So these rights are fundamental for us, and you can see why at the beginning I said this is so important for how we feel in our relationships. This is important for our feeling safety. This is important for us in terms of us being seen, and that's a fundamental need that we have, is that we are seen for who we are, and we're heard for who we are and for what we're expressing. So your rights to be treated as intelligent and capable and equal, your rights to express your needs and your priorities and to share what's on your mind in a non-aggressive way or in an assertive way is fundamental. You're also allowed to say, I don't know. And it's interesting because when I'm running a training or a conference, oftentimes people say, oh yeah, but if you're doing a presentation, you can't say, I don't know. Yeah, you can. If you don't know, then you should say it because it's honest and it's true. And so, but we can say those in assertive ways like, I'll find out. And to come back to that one on Thursday, I think, because it's a useful one when we're talking about things like work presentations or being heard on Zoom or whatever your method of communicating is these days. Given that we're not all co-located in offices. But you also have the right to choose not to be assertive. You have the right to choose what you share. So that means that if you have all of these rights, so does everyone else. And what that means is that you have the responsibility to treat others in the same way, to respect and uphold their rights, to allow them to express themselves, to allow them to be seen as capable, to allow them to have feelings and wants and express them in a direct, assertive way. And so when we listen to one another, truly listen to one another, we're being assertive. When we check back with, I said to you, how can you know what you've communicated till you know what I've understood? When we check back with understanding, reflect back, that's assertive, making sure that we really have understood before we express our opinions or desires. So 3 things, and I will come back to this on Thursday, three techniques for assertiveness. Make sure that you express yourself in a way that is confident. So in other words, that you state it as your own. So you use words like I feel, I want. That you are clear. So not going around the houses with, lots of different ways of kind of sort of like, seems like maybe sometimes, but actually being clear. This is what I need. This is what I think. This is what I desire. And that you are controlled. So that means that you are calm and your intention is to communicate, to be heard. So you need to have a clear idea of what you want to say. And we will come back to that tomorrow because it's such a wonderful technique to use in in a workplace, I have a list of about 15 more techniques that I want to talk about. We also talk about tips and techniques and share masterclasses on our website, which is www.confidencethroughcabaret.com. We will also be talking about alignment tomorrow with the wonderful Julia from our Confidence Through Cabaret community. So do make sure that you go to our podcast. We're on Podbean, but you can get it anywhere where you get your podcasts. And come back on Thursday and let's talk about work life. But just between now and then, reflect on your own assertive behaviors. How are you expressing yourself? What's leading to that? If it's assertive, what's causing that? If it's not assertive, what's causing that? Really try to get to some root cause, and then we'll come back and pick that up again. Please like and subscribe below. Love having you here. So happy you are here. And I'm so thrilled to share with you assertiveness techniques. I'll see you tomorrow, all about alignment. Bye.